Today, myself and Christian here. Ryan couldn't make it for this video, but he'll be joining us this weekend as we do another sleeper video and some other videos for you guys. So, as always, the big thing that we would say is, we love the support that we have from you guys. Continue to get the word out there, get other subscribers, views, likes, comments. We love to hear that. Even when you disagree, we love to hear that banter. We're going to try to do a better job of answering questions, but there are a lot out there, obviously. But one of the things I think we really want to hear from you guys at this point as we begin to get closer to the really the heart of football season, and we look at a lot of drafts begin kind of in August, so in July, people really begin to ramp up their study. And so between now and then, we want to improve our product. One of the ways we're going to do that is through feedback from you guys. So we want to hear things from you guys like what would you like to see differently? Would you like to see a little bit more in-depth information, more charts, graphs? Would you like to see a better camera? Just once again, be nice, but give us some feedback. Tell us how we can improve the product for you guys. So the name of this video, by the way, is going to be called Fact or Fiction. And we're going to do this this is going to be part one. We're going to do many parts. We'll continue to follow this all the time, including when the season starts. What's going to happen season starts, people are very reactionary. Like last year, I remember Tom Brady came out and had a bad week one. Everybody said he is done. And so we did a fact or fiction on that to say, is he really done? And we went out and say he wasn't. And of course, he went out and had a good year. And so we're going to do a lot of fact or fictions moving forward in this. So
yeah, just leave a comment down below. Let us know what fact or fictions you want us to do, players and questions that you guys have, and then we'll talk about it.
All right, let's get to the very first fact or fiction.
All right, so we'll start off with Patrick Mahomes plays like Deshaun Watson did last year. That's the first fact or fiction, and I'm going to go fiction on that one. And it's really simple. There's actually not a whole lot to it. Now, I know that some people are a bigger fan of Patrick Mahomes than I. He might be a great quarterback this year, but first of all, having played only one game last year, he's basically a rookie. Even if he is great for his first year as a starting quarterback, he's not going to throw 30 touchdowns. He might throw 24, 25 and rush for 3 or 4. He might have an okay year, but very limited is what he's going to do. A lot of people are comparing him to Deshaun Watson last year, saying he's very similar teams and that he could very well do that. So let's just look at what Watson did last year. Last year he threw for 1,699 yards, 19 touchdowns in the air, another 269 rushing with 2 touchdowns. He did all that in just 7 games. Those numbers sound pretty good, but they're actually unbelievable. If you pace that out for a whole season, he would have thrown 43 touchdowns, ran 4 touchdowns in, and had a QBR of 103. That's a QBR up there with Aaron Rodgers. That is combined 47 touchdowns, which is just insane. A lot of elite quarterbacks like Drew Brees don't even throw 30 touchdowns. Tom Brady doesn't consistently throw 47 touchdowns. And so those numbers were crazy. In fact, if Deshaun Watson had continued to play for the year, he would not have finished the season with those many numbers. Something would have happened. In fact, his pace would have been 322 fantasy points, 65 fantasy points better than the second best fantasy quarterback last year. There's no way Watson would have continued that, and there's no way Patrick Mahomes is going to be able to do that. One of the things that really allowed Deshaun Watson to have such crazy numbers was how, two things, was how good his receivers were and how bad his defense was. DeAndre Hopkins, to me, is one of the 2 best receivers in the NFL, and Will Fuller's a great second one. CJ Federowicz, if I'm saying that correctly, is a semi-solid tight end. I think Patrick Mahomes has comparable, considering Travis Kelce's a much better tight end than CJ Federowicz, but the receivers are definitely worse. So even if that balances out equally, here's what makes the difference for me is that the Texans gave up 27.3 points per game last year, worse than the NFL. The Chiefs average, they were 15th best with only 21.1 points per game. So I think that makes a huge difference, that they're not going to need Patrick Mahomes to play that well. Again, no rookie quarterback has really ever played as well as Deshaun Watson was playing. Of course, he didn't finish the season, so we never really know what would have happened at the end. Patrick Mahomes won't be the best rookie quarterback ever, and so I'm going to call that a fiction.
Yeah, so initially when you hear that, okay, can Patrick Mahomes have a good year like he had? Can he come out and have a major impact on his team? My first thought was, yeah, I think he can do that. But then when you begin to break down statistically what he was doing last year, then it becomes abundantly clear that obviously that's impossible for any quarterback to put out those sort of numbers. So I guess based on the numbers, you're right. I think I would agree with that statement. So.
All right. I definitely think another thing that plays into that is the Chiefs have a solid run game that the Texans didn't last year, and so they're able to lean on that a lot in games, which somewhat helps the passing game, but definitely means that he's not going to throw as much.
Okay.
All right.
So our next fact or fiction. Fact or fiction, Tom Brady has another dominant year. Okay, I'm gonna call that a fact. And here, let's break this down a little bit. I know he's kind of at that bubble. You know, how long can we trust this guy's getting older? It's only a matter of time before he declines. Now, so if you're drafting Tom Brady this year, it's kind of like playing Russian roulette. Yet, if you're willing to roll the dice, he's a guy that could be a steal for you in the draft. Or he's a guy, like I said, that could be a steal when other people are jumping off that bandwagon. So I think what is at this point, it's just a matter of time of determining when it's time to bail, when he's beginning to decline. So I want to take a look at this. Is it time to bail on him, or is it time to stand pat with the Patriots Hall of Famer? So the one thing I noticed, I did some research on, so can he still be productive at age 41? What we have seen before is that with quarterbacks in the NFL, when they start to decline, it happens very quickly. The wheels come off very fast. So I want to take a look at two players, Peyton Manning and Brett Favre, okay? So Peyton Manning back in 2014 at the age of 38, right? He has a quarterback rating of 101. He throws for 4,700 passing yards. He has 39 touchdown passes with only 15 interceptions. A very good year, right? The very next year comes back, has a career worst quarterback rating of 67, only throws for 2,200 passing yards, 9 TD passes to 17 interceptions. What a major shift in just 1 year. Let's look at Brett Favre. So Brett Favre in 2009 at the age of 40 has a quarterback rating of 107, 33 touchdown passes, only 7 interceptions. Great year. Okay, we're going to talk about it later. It's actually his best year by far was that year. He had a career year that year. The very next year, he follows that up. At age 41, has a quarterback rating of 69, only 11 touchdown passes to 19 interceptions. So we see for quarterbacks, well, when they decline, that happens pretty quickly. And so it's kind of scary right now, like I said, playing Russian roulette, like can we trust Brady or not? Well, he's going to be 41 this year when the season starts. So just looking at a little bit of numbers with Tom Brady. One, the last 3 years, he had a quarterback rating of over 100. What actually equals the amount of times he had a quarterback rating in the previous 15 years combined. And so last year, he's been consistently over 100 in his quarterback rating. He only did it 3 other times in his entire 15 years. So he's been very consistent. The one thing that he's known for, if you study this guy, he takes great care of himself. His diet, exercise, his overall care are impeccable, and this can often elongate your career. His meals, for example, I just want to give you some ideas of how much time and effort he puts into taking care of his body. His meals are prepared by a personal chef, mostly vegan, and he rates everything like, when they talk about different toxicity levels, what he's taking, alkaline versus acidic and all that. I mean, everything is balanced out in his diet. Everything is considered. Every part of his day is pre-planned. It says his days are mapped out not just for months, but for years he plans out. In fact, Sports Illustrated did an article on him, an in-depth story, and they talked about how his meticulous lifestyle has been helped really maintain his momentum as a quarterback. Alex Guerrero, which is his personal trainer, talked about how his workouts, his vacation days, even his sleep schedule are calculated. I mean, this guy is very particular about how he takes care of himself. His sleep habits. Says he has difficulty unwinding at night, so he does cognitive exercises at bedtime to de-stimulate his brain. I think you need to do that, Christian.
Apparently, yeah.
So I have a hard time sleeping. So he does that. He falls asleep by 9 o'clock. He sleeps well. He gets up on his own. His workouts. He rarely lifts weights. He wants to keep the impact on his joints minimal. And so he does a lot of resistant bands, exercises on land, sea, and water. He very much has a different approach to physical fitness. And here's the other thing that he does. Once again, this guy is fanatical about taking care of himself. He's done brain resilience programming. So he works on brain exercises, okay? What he does is he really tailor-makes a workout to his brain. And the exercise he's doing helps his brain process information, increase his peripheral vision, which is important for a quarterback, help improve his memory. Now, the one thing he said in the article here, I guess is important, is that he fortunately hasn't had many concussions, so that bodes really well for him. So he's training for what if that happens. So he's building resilience, he's staying sharp. He wants to keep an edge, just not only physically, but mentally, emotionally. Every aspect of it, he's calculated. Even on vacations. You know, we go on vacation, we take a break, right? Like, forget the diet, I'm on vacation, not him. He works out on vacation, goes to the beach. He naps on schedule. And he'll work out twice a day, actually, on his vacations. And so he avoids drinking alcohol. Everything that this guy does, okay? He's made a statement that he wants to play till he's 45. Everything he does is built around achieving that goal. So this guy is just, unlike a lot of other quarterbacks, you know, back in the day, you heard about Jim Plunkett or Brett Favre, are known for going out and partying. And this guy doesn't live that way at all. He's really taking care of himself. Another thing I think is important is that, for the most part, he's been able to avoid, he had 1 year where he tore his knee up there, but otherwise he's avoided excessive punishment to his body. Unlike, let's say, Brett Favre. Brett Favre was great. He played physical. I mean, he was such a gutsy, tough player, Brett Favre, but he took a lot of hard hits, and that catches up to you. But Tom Brady's been able to avoid a lot of those big physical hits, so I think that helps a lot. He's averaged 25 sacks per season. That's not excessive. Now, some people are concerned that this year he doesn't have a lot of great weapons around him, and that's going to hurt him this year. He's going to see a decline. One, Julian Edelman will be back this year, so that's a huge boost. They also have Hogan will be back and healthy, Gronkowski, Jordan Matthews, Cardell Patterson, Rex Burkhead out of the backfield, Malcolm Mitchell. By the way, Malcolm Mitchell, as a rookie, showed a lot of promise, and last year had hurt, missed the whole season. Well, he's back, and he's looking really good. They've got White in the backfield, Kenny Britt, and then they drafted Sony Michel, who was supposed to be a good pass-catching back, so there's a lot of weapons there. So here's another question I wanted to ask as I analyze this. Will he come back and do well? How many quarterbacks have been successful at a later age? Well, one, more and more athletes are being successful as they get older and they're being productive. It was only 4 months ago, right? So just 4 months ago in the Super Bowl against a very good Philly defense, he throws 505 yards and 3 TDs with no interceptions. That's no sign of slowing down in that Super Bowl at all. You look at, he's had 30-plus touchdown passes in 6 of the last 8 years. In one of those years, in 2016, he missed it. He only had 28, but he's suspended for 4 games. So if he plays, he ends up 30 there. So really, in all reality, 7 last 8 years, he has 30-plus touchdown passes. In the previous 10 seasons before that, he only did it once. So almost all his success has been the second half of his career. You look at Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning, his record-setting touchdown, where he had 55 touchdown passes at the age of 37. He wasn't young at all. You look at Brett Favre. We talked about the year that he threw 33 touchdown passes to only 7 interceptions. He had a completion percentage of 68, quarterback rate of 107, which was by far the best in his career. In fact, if you look at Brett Favre, he never broke over 100 except that 1 year, and he did that when he was 40 years old. And so we just see it more and more. Warren Moon had a good year when he was 41. So with all that said, all the information, I believe Tom Brady's going to have another good year. In fact, I think he's going to have the most productive year for a 41-year-old quarterback. Now, with that said, I think I'm not going to project out and say 2-3 years. He's got 5 in the league. I'm saying, right now, 1 year at a time, we'll look at that. Here's my advice. Going into this year, I think he's going to have a good year. But let's say you're in a dynasty league. And let's say the first 3 to 4 games you're not doing well. Let's say you start off 1-4, 1-3, or whatever it is. Probably time to trade him, leverage for future picks. But right now, especially in redraft leagues, I would be comfortable letting him slip and maybe taking a little bit later. I think Tom Brady does have another productive season.
All right, that's pretty solid. I have really nothing to disagree with you there, except that his life sounds miserable.
It sounds way too,
way too structured.
Yeah, from the outside looking in, it sounds amazing. I wouldn't want to be that guy. So a little discipline's good, but this guy goes way over the top.
I mean, I'm actually that structured. Every day I get up at noon, I play a few hours of video games, I drink 4 or 5 Mountain Dews, I never have less than 4. So, I mean, we're really comparable.
You are consistent.
All right, so now we're going to move on. I'm going to talk about Josh Gordon. And here's the question. Will Josh Gordon be a top 25 scoring fantasy receiver this season? And I'm going to say that's a fact. First things first, he's actually fairly young still. I think a lot of people think he's a lot older than he is. He's actually only 27 years old, and that's huge. I think a lot of people, because he's been around and all the drama and in and out of the league and things, people think he's older than he is. For a wide receiver, 27, he's still relatively young, so that's not a concern. The other concern is that, well, he's had issues in the past. He hasn't had issues for a very long time, and he's made it very clear that he's serious about playing in the NFL. It's been about 2 years or so, or even more, since he's been in any trouble for anything or been in the news, and so that's very, very good news for him. That's a concern. I don't think that's going to be something that's going to keep him from playing. I don't think he's going to get suspended. Of course, we know that he has the talent. In 2013, he had over 1,600 receiving yards and 9 touchdowns in only 14 games. So he plays 2 less games and has such an unbelievable year. On top of that, his 2 quarterbacks that year were Jason Campbell and Brandon Weeden. Those guys don't have jobs anymore. Those guys aren't even on the bench right now. And he managed to go out there and have an unbelievable year in just 14 games with those guys. He's shown us that he has the talent. In fact, there's something you just read about. You want to tell him what that was?
Well, I just read an article today about Baker Mayfield came out and said that Josh Gordon, he said he's been around a lot of amazing athletes and football players, and he said nobody is like this guy. He said basically that he's never seen a player that has the skills and the gifts that he has. He's just blown away at how amazing, how talented this guy is. So everything seems to point to him doing well.
Yeah. So then the question is, has he been out of the league for too long? He was great then, but what about now? Well, we just heard he seems so amazing. Last year he came back for the last couple of games, and he didn't play enough games for us to really see, but he was on pace for 1,000 yards and 4 touchdowns, which is fairly good considering 2 things. First of all, He hadn't played in a few years. Actually, I would say three things. First of all, he hadn't played in a few years, and he's just really getting back into the swing of things. Second thing is that his quarterback was DESHAUN, who was just simply not getting it done. He threw like 11 touchdowns and like 22 interceptions last year.
Yeah, when the Cleveland Browns trade away, DeShone Kizer, when they trade you away, the Browns do, that's a pretty good indication you're not a good player.
Even the Browns don't want him. Yes. Not only that, he only played 3 or 4 games, and he played some really good defenses. He played the Chargers, who were the 3rd best pass defense, the Ravens, who were the 10th best pass defense, and the Bears, who were the 7th best pass defense.
I didn't know that, but those are good stats. Definitely consider that.
So he wasn't playing a bunch of Joe Schmoes out there. These are good pass defenses, and he was really the only guy for them to watch out for in that offense, and he's still getting things done. Finally, I like that they upgrade to Tyrod Taylor. Tyrod Taylor isn't great, but DeShone Kizer had a quarterback rating last year of, I believe, 23 or 24, which is just terrible. Tyrod Taylor isn't a great quarterback, but with a quarterback rating last year of 56, you're getting a huge upgrade there. So I think that's very good news. I think Josh Gordon's going to have a great year.
All right. I think he is too. I agree with that.
All right.
Fact or fiction? Derrick Henry finally breaks in the top 15 with over 1,000 yards rushing and double-digit touchdowns. Fact or fiction? I'm going to say that is fiction. So the 6'3", 247, bruising back for the Titans. A lot of people think this is going to be his breakout year. And I did for a time too. In fact, last year I was big on this guy early in the season. I felt he was underused. And now that DeMarco Murray's gone, right, like this should be the time the door's open. He can become a legitimate running back one. Well, my thinking has changed. I want to get into some numbers a little bit. Let's take a look at the numbers and dive deeper into them. Last year he had a decent year, 744 rushing yards and 5 rushing TDs. Not bad in a limited role, right? He had 2 less catches in the year before. That's concerning because we like to see him improve in the passing game. He actually took a step back there. But if you look at it, initially it would seem like he had a slight drop in production. His rookie year, his yards per carry was 4.5. Last year was 4.2. That seems insignificant, right? But I think if you take a closer look, you're going to find those numbers a lot more concerning than they may lead on. So if you look at a little closer, last year Henry had 2 touchdown runs, one of 72 yards and one of 75 yards, okay? Now, both of those happened on very similar plays. What it was late in the game, he was brought in to really kind of run out the clock. There was under 1 minute remaining. He was basically brought in to kill the clock, okay? So defenses had 9 men in the box. They're low in the line trying to stop him. And he busts through the line, and he goes the distance. There's no corner safety. They were all up on the line. So he has a 72-yard run, a 75-yard run. You take those away from his statistics, okay? That leaves him with 174 carries for 597 yards for a woeful yards per carry of 3.43. Okay, so I know what a lot of people are probably thinking at this point. Okay, the argument is, okay, yeah, those are 2 long runs. You take those away, that hurts, but every running back has that. Your stats and your yards per carry are built on all runs, even the good runs, even the bad runs. But here's the thing. He's no Barry Sanders. Like Barry Sanders, that's really how his career was. He would get dropped for a 1-yard loss, maybe he'd have a 1-yard gain, but then boom, he'd bust a 50 or 60 yarder because that's who he was. But let's make no mistake, okay? At 247 pounds, this guy doesn't have breakaway speed. He's a pounder. It was just a fluke circumstance that really allowed him to break those long runs. He struggled to run the ball often last year. In fact, if you look at it in 8 games running last year, he really disappeared. During 8 games, he was brutal. In fact, during 8 games, he had 174 total yards on 82 carries for a yards per carry of 2.07. This guy really struggled to run the ball. But for me, the biggest red flag is the fact they signed Dion Lewis. And so for me, that begs the question, why they signed Dion Lewis? Well, it really makes me go back to last year. Last year, I kept wondering, okay, why is it that they're not giving him more carries? He seemed to be the more effective running back compared to DeMarco Murray. DeMarco Murray looked slow, and Henry looked like he was a stronger, more physical running back, and yet they were reluctant to really use him more. And then they go out this year and they sign Dion Lewis. Okay, well, they aggressively pursued Lewis. And why did they do that? Well, I think basically what it comes down to is Henry's restrictions in the passing game. I think that's really what's limiting him at this point. And what's happening now in the NFL is if you can't be involved in passing situations, it really hurts your overall value and how often you're going to see the field. Teams are going away from that running back who was just only brought in as a bruising running back, kind of the old-fashioned type throwback running back. They really want a guy that can be on for all 3 downs. In fact, Coach LaFleur came out and he said this. Coach LaFleur talked about a desire to build a strong marriage between the pass and the run. He sees the team using the running game to set up defenses for play action down the field. He implemented the same offense he implemented last year with the Rams. Now, if you think about last year with the Rams, look at how often the Rams running backs were used in the passing game. So that's what he's trying to really duplicate there for the Titans. And of course, play action only works if defenses buy into the fact that that running back is a dual threat. And so when he's on the field, Derrick Henry, I don't think a lot of defenses are worried about him going out in the flat and beating a corner or a linebacker. It's just not something that happens, so that kind of takes back play action. I think about Adrian Peterson. Adrian Peterson, late in his career, became a one-dimensional back, and that's what really hurt him off in a lot of offenses. You look at Henry last 2 years, only averaged 12 catches per season. He played just 41% of the Tennessee snaps, ranks 46 among all NFL running backs. His lack of involvement in the passing game is really hurting him. It's limited. He was only targeted 17 times last year. And I think that's the step back. I think when it's all said and done, there's a chance he could have a career, let's say, like a LeGarrette Blount. A decent career, maybe even good at times, but Blount's only averaged 736 yards per season. And if you look at it, LeGarrette Blount's yards per carry were actually better the first 2 seasons than they were for him now. So when I take a look at him, I think of Derrick Henry as more of a running back 3 in standard leagues and much lower in PPR leagues.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Just simply put to me, he can't catch out of the backfield, and that's the way the NFL is going, and you really need to be able to do those sort of things to stay on the field.
All right, so let's get to our last 2 backs, and we'll be done with the video in a
All right, so we're talking about Eli Manning. Here's the question. A lot of people have been saying this off season. Will Eli Manning rebound and be a top 12 fantasy quarterback again? I'm going to have to go with fiction on that one, and here's why. First of all, I want to cover the good things. Good thing, last year they had the 2nd worst overall defense. That's good for a quarterback. You'll be throwing the ball a lot more. Weapons like Odell Beckham, Evan Ingram, Saquon Barkley, and Sterling Shepard mean he's got people to get the ball to. Finally, they have an offensive line. They went out and drafted Will Hernandez, signed Nate Soldier, and Patrick Omameh, if I said that correctly. I have no idea. So
they signed an offensive lineman that's really talented. Let's put it that way.
They signed some good players. That's what matters. So it seems to me like all of the pieces are in place for him to have a great season. How can he not be top 12? How not? And here's the thing. I think that all those pieces allow Eli Manning to be the best quarterback that he can be. The problem is that Eli Manning is not a great quarterback. He hasn't even been a top 20 fantasy quarterback since 2015. He hasn't even been top 20 the last 2 seasons. In fact, only 3 times in his career has he thrown 30 or more touchdown passes, which is basically the standard for what makes you a good quarterback or not, is whether or not you can throw for 30 touchdown passes. So I think he'll have a fairly good year. I said fiction. I still think he might probably finish top 15. I think top 12 is a bit of a stretch, but I think that when people say that, oh, is he going to finish top 12? Is he going to have a good year? Is he going to bounce back? They're thinking he's going to be top 10, have this great year. I'm going to say top 15, top 12 for me is starting to be a bit of a reach. He's got all sorts of weapons around him, but he's had weapons for years in the passing game, and he just, for me, refuses to have that sort of consistency or really step up in the past.
Yeah. Are you done there?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think he's going to rebound. I think he's going to be a good start in some matchup plays. But, I agree with you. I think, once again, he's going to have a good year. I think he's going to finish strong. I don't see him being top 10, except for we're going to be week to week based on who he's playing. So I would agree with that. I would agree with that assessment. Easy for me to say.
All right.
Fact or fiction? Matt Ryan contends for the MVP again. Fact or fiction? Well, I'm going to say that's fiction. Okay, so don't expect him to return to his 2016 MVP form. I know there's a lot of rebound hype there. People expect he's going to rebound. I just don't see it. Now, going into 2017, we really caution. If you went to our website last year and watched our videos, we caution. In fact, here's what we said last year regarding. I know a lot of people are disappointed. So going into the year, we said, be careful that you don't overhype this guy. And here's what we said. Here's our prediction. Last year was a bit of an aberration, referring back to his 2016 MVP year. It was the first time Matt had a quarterback rating over 100, only the 2nd time he had over 30 touchdown passes. That's somewhat concerning when you consider the weapons around him used to consist of Roddy White, Tony Gonzalez, and Julio Jones. Besides, last year he was routinely underachieved. So that's what we said last year, and I think we just nailed that. A lot of people overpaid for this guy. Some people even took him in the 1st round, which, by the way, is just bad advice taking any quarterback in the 1st round. Look at his MVP season. His quarterback rating was 117. Okay, his career quarterback rate is 93. That's 24 points above his average. And that's an average, by the way, that's been boosted by his MVP season. You take that away, it'd be even lower. You take away his MVP season, he's averaged 25 touchdown passes to 13 interceptions. That's a quality quarterback. It's not a great quarterback. I think probably the biggest thing, though, and I think the reason why I took a step back and the same reason why I don't expect him to rebound, is he lost his offensive coordinator and quarterback guru coach, Kyle Shanahan, who left for the 49ers, and that was a huge blow to that offense and to him. Another thing I think that hurts him at this point is the Falcons' defense. Their defense has improved quite a bit. Like you said, a lot of those garbage time stats a lot of these players get, you have to look at their defense to determine that. In his MVP season, the Falcons gave up the 6th most points in the league on defense, 25.4. Okay, in 2017, the defense improved significantly, and they've got a lot of young, talented players on defense there. So in 2017, they give the 8th fewest points on defense at 19.7. And so that's basically a touchdown less per game. So that hurts his overall need to throw the ball in production. So here's what I expect. So I think Matt Ryan's not going to do as bad as he did last year. I think he's going to rebound slightly to about the 23 to 25 passing touchdown range. I think he's not going to be a bad pick. He's not going to be a stud. A lot of people are going to remember his MVP year, and they're going to overreach for this guy, overpay for him. Don't make that mistake. He'll sit around the 12 to 18 quarterback range. If he slips, grab him. He'll be a nice play, but not a great play this year. So that's my take on Matt Ryan.
All right, I think that's completely solid. I totally agree with you, especially with that defense. I think they're going to even be better than they were last year, and it was really starting to get good last year. And I think that's a big thing that keeps him from having a lot more value than he does.
All right, thanks for joining us at Fantasy Football Profits. Once again, leave your comments, likes, suggestions, whatever that might be. Look forward to a couple more videos. Take care and God bless.